Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're going to trace the incredible evolution of web security on AWS. And by looking back at years of updates to its core services, a really clear story starts to emerge. It's this shift from, a simple, static wall to a deeply intelligent, adaptive shield that protects our modern applications. So, how do we get from there to here? Let's dive in.
And that really gets to the heart of the problem, doesn't it? It's not just about blocking one bad actor you already know about. No way. It's about defending against automated botnets, really sophisticated fraud attempts, and these massive denial-of-service attacks that can just pop up out of nowhere. This is the problem AWS set out to solve, and the solution has been evolving nonstop.
So to tackle this massive challenge, AWS basically relies on a trio of core services. You can think of them as a highly specialized security team. Each one has a very distinct role, but they all work together to give you these layers of defense for your applications. So let's meet the team.
First up is AWS WAF, the Web Application Firewall. Now this is your first line of defense. It's the bouncer at the front door, checking every single request that tries to get into your application. You tell it what to look for, things like malicious scripts or SQL injection attacks, and it inspects all that traffic, filtering out the bad stuff before it even gets close to your code.
Next in the lineup is AWS Shield. So if WAF is the bouncer, Shield is the advanced high-tech security system for the entire building. Its main job? To protect you from DDoS, or distributed denial-of-service attacks. These are just those brute force attempts to flood your application with so much traffic that it completely collapses. Shield is designed to just absorb these massive attacks automatically.
And finally, there's AWS Firewall Manager. This is the head of security, the one who makes sure every bouncer and every security system is following the exact same playbook. And in a big organization with maybe dozens or even hundreds of accounts, Firewall Manager is absolutely crucial for enforcing consistent security policies everywhere, all from one central dashboard.
Okay, so we've met our team. Now let's look at the first major evolutionary leap, moving beyond just blocking simple attacks to actually fighting smarter, automated threats. I mean, the nature of the fight completely changed, and so the tools had to change too.
In the early days, security was all about blocking relatively predictable attacks. But the threat landscape got so much smarter. Now we're dealing with these sophisticated bots that can perfectly mimic human behavior, automated attacks trying to take over user accounts, and even abuse of the very APIs that power our applications. A simple set of rules just isn't going to cut it anymore.
And this is where it gets really cool, because you can literally see AWS responding directly to these new kinds of threats. In 2021, they introduced bot control to deal with those pesky automated bots. Then, account takeover prevention came along to protect login pages, which is huge. And more recently, they added JA3 and then JA4 fingerprinting. This is like going from just checking a license plate to analyzing the unique sound of a car's engine. It's a much, much deeper way to figure out who is trying to connect before they can even do anything bad.
So this led to a whole new wave of specialized defenses. Instead of a one-size-fits-all approach, AWS started rolling out these intelligent tools designed to stop very specific threats, like fake account signups or really complex bot attacks. And crucially, with the addition of machine learning, the system isn't just following a static playbook anymore. It's actually starting to learn and adapt all on its own.
The next big evolution was all about empowerment. See, as the tools got smarter, AWS also gave developers and security teams way more granular control. It was this big move away from a one-size-fits-all model to something much more customizable, giving you almost surgical-level control over your security.
Just take rate limiting, for example. For years, the lowest you could possibly set it was 100 requests in a 5-minute window. Now, you can dial that all the way down to just 10. That gives you incredible precision. And the amount of a request body you could inspect, it jumped from a tiny 8 kilobytes up to 64. And you're not stuck with that fixed 5-minute window for your rules anymore. You can pick the time frame that actually fits your application's real traffic pattern.
And this theme of deeper control just kept going. The ability to inspect JSON bodies directly, that was a huge deal for API security. Instead of just looking at one header, you could suddenly inspect all of them, or all the cookies. You could even trigger rate limits based on specific API paths. Oh, and the ability to just override a rule from block to count mode? That was a total game changer for testing new rules safely without breaking things for your real users.
Okay, so all this new power and intelligence is fantastic, but it can also create a lot of complexity, right?
So the third major evolution we've seen is this really focused effort to simplify management and make these powerful tools way easier to use, especially when you're working at a large scale.
And this really came to life in the console experience. In late 2023, they rolled out these brand new dashboards that give you a much clearer overview of your traffic. Then by early 2025, a Top Insights tab was added to automatically show you the most important stuff. And just recently, the entire onboarding process was simplified. The goal here is pretty clear: lower the barrier to entry and make really powerful security accessible to more people.
And that theme of simplification also applies to our head of security firewall manager. Its scope has expanded dramatically. Seriously, it's not just for managing AWS WAF anymore. Now you can manage security at every single layer, from low-level network ACLs all the way up to the security groups on individual servers, and you can even integrate and enforce policies for third-party firewalls. It's really becoming that true single pane of glass for all your network security.
All right, the final piece of this evolutionary story is all about reach. The protective shield of AWS WAF hasn't just gotten smarter and easier to use, it's also expanded to cover more and more corners of the AWS ecosystem.
I mean, just listen to this rollout. Protection was extended to API Gateway, then to GraphQL APIs with AppSync. It was added to Cognito to protect user authentication. Then App Runner and Verified Access were brought under the umbrella. Then even multi-tenant CloudFront setups. Basically, the shield is now protecting nearly every single entry point into the AWS cloud.
So when you put it all together, the story is just crystal clear. What started as a relatively simple, static firewall has completely transformed. Through years of these incremental but really significant updates, it has become a learning, adaptive, and incredibly far-reaching immune system for any application you run on AWS.
And this brings us to one last, forward-looking question. The attackers, they're not standing still. The next generation of threats will absolutely be powered by AI. So what does the next evolution of defense look like? How do you build a shield that can actually outthink an AI-driven sword? Well, that's the big challenge for the years to come. Thanks for tuning in.